Part 5. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 41. The girl at the end is so beautiful and elegant. I really didn't expect that the pipa and piano ensemble would have such an unexpected beauty. It really feels like the soul is being washed, it's so melodious. I didn't even pay attention to it. That girl is really beautiful. I was too busy looking at her face. Yeah, I feel prettier than many popular female stars. After listening all the way, Sulu's face became extremely gloomy. How could Wen Qiao be so good? She had no manners to her father at all, she was very fierce, and she didn't have any gentleness that a girl should have. She was whimsical, and she pursued Zhuangyan passionately, and was regarded as a laughing stock by the whole school. Apart from that, Lu Yuyu in 9th high school, who would want to be friends with her? Moreover, her private life was chaotic, she couldn't pursue Zhuangyan, and instead caught up with other rich men. She doesn't deserve these compliments at all. Backstage, Vincent sighed for the 18th time, "My God, I really can't believe that you are a couple, oh my God, it's so fateful, so well matched, you really are a match made in heaven." Lu Yuyu from behind nodded in agreement, "These two people are really a good match." Fu Nanli smiled, "She deserves your invitation." "Certainly." Vincent and Wen Qiao shook hands, "Thank you for willing to perform on the same stage with me." "Wen Qiao, my honor." Fu Nanli kept his hand on Wen Qiao's waist, and the three characters of possessiveness were almost written on his face. "Vincent, Feynman, I have something personal to say to you." Wen Qiao said quickly, "I'll go outside for a walk." Fu Nanli hooked her waist and whispered in his ear, "Don't go far, I'll be fine soon." When Wen Qiao left the backstage, he ran into Uncle Li, who was in a neat suit. Uncle Li had a gentle face and was a friendly elder. "Miss Wen, is it convenient for me to say a few words?" Wen Qiao walked to the railing with him, and Uncle Li said bluntly, "Are you really our young master's girlfriend?" Wen Qiao clenched her fists slightly, "Will I risk my life to save a man who has nothing to do with me? You don't need to tell me these words. The young master has lost his memory." "I don't. The young master has always been at the airport at home. I have never heard of him having a girlfriend. Our young master is not a kind person. In case one day your deeds have been exposed, not only you, but also your family will be in trouble. Little girl, listen to my advice and stop in time." Wen Qiao held the golden railing and lowered her eyes, "It's you who are prejudiced against me." Uncle Li sighed, "The young master is full of dangers and treacherous people. Everyone wants to plot against him, and everyone wants to replace him. If you still have the heart, little girl, please be a kind person and don't be the one who is most trusted by him. He is also the person who deceived him the most." Wen Qiao's heart tugged, and suddenly, she felt sorry for Fu Nanli. Footsteps sounded behind her, and the man's big hand wrapped around her waist again. Fu Nanli looked at Uncle Li with displeasure in his eyes, "What are you talking about? Protecting her unconditionally looks like a faint tyrant." "Wen Qiao, I'm guilty. I am guilty of a heinous crime." Uncle Li reversed his dignified look just now, and smiled, "My performance at Miss Qian tonight is very attractive, isn't it, Miss Wen?" "Yes." Wen Qiao smiled kindly. Vincent personally sent the two off the cruise ship. The bodyguard put Wen Qiao's piano bag into the trunk, and Lu Yuyu was very conscious, Qiao, I'm leaving first." After finishing speaking, he quickly ran to the parking lot, fearing that if he stayed a second longer, he would be disgusted by Fu Xiao. Wen Qiao was brought into the car by Fu Nanli, and the lights outside the window flickered on and off inside the car. "Tell the driver the address of your home," the man said in a low voice. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 42. Wen Qiao had no way out, so he could only report the address to the driver. Half an hour later, at the intersection of Shuiying Road, a black car stopped quietly. The flight at 5 o'clock in the afternoon the day after tomorrow. I will ask someone to book the ticket for you. You will arrive at the airport at 3 o'clock, did you hear that? Wen Qiao nodded, yes, I heard that. The man stared at her with words in his eyes, if you dare not go. Wen Qiao quickly assured, I will definitely go. Only then did the man let go of her hand. Wen Qiao got out of the car, the window was half open, she leaned over to say goodbye to him with a smile all over her face. The corners of Fu Nanli's mouth curved slightly, and the car slowly left in front of her. Wen Qiao exhaled. Take his flight. Go to Munich. Wouldn't it be a day in Munich? Obviously alone with him, she couldn't face his aggressive gaze. Why did you say that you were his girlfriend so shamelessly back then? Now there is a feeling of being on a pirate ship and not being able to survive. Otherwise, just don't go the day after tomorrow, and make up an excuse at that time, just say you are sick. At the gate of Wen's villa, the Mercedes-Benz was parked, and Sulu was about to get out of the car. Zhao Tong sent a WeChat message, which was a screenshot of Weibo. Click on it, and Vincent specially registered the official Weibo account today, just to post a picture of him and Wen Qiao's group photo. It is in Chinese at Vincent, MS Wen, a genius folk music fairy, is really happy to have a successful cooperation. Sulu stared straight at the photo, the flesh in her mouth was almost bleeding from her bite. The driver turned his head, Miss Lu, you're home. It took a long time for Sulu to calm down and walked into the house. Wen Jianmin at home was furious and roaring. That girl, it's really against the sky. She actually sent the court summons to my company, and it was the morning rush hour, and the courier was shouting loudly in the lobby. Now, no one in the whole company doesn't know that the girl came to ask for child support. I lost all face. Zhong Hui finally seized the opportunity to file a complaint, and said aggrievedly, Jianmin, that girl Wen Qiao really has no education at all. 2 days ago, I wanted to talk to Su Yun about that girl. Say, it's not easy for you, how can you open your mouth and ask for 2 million, guess what? That girl didn't say anything, picked up the boiling hot coffee and poured it on my face. After speaking, he sobbed and cried aloud. This is tantamount to adding fuel to the fire. Wen Jianmin was so angry that he slapped the table and kicked the bench. Sulu comforted her mother by the side, and added another bucket of oil. Uncle Wen Qiao not only asks you for money, but also hangs out with dubious little stars. I guess it's also for money. Wen Xian yelled from the side, Dad, they are all villains, they are all big villains. They bullied my mother and sister. Wen Jianmin was furious, I must discipline this girl. In mid-July, it was approaching the scorching heat, and only in the morning was there a little cool breeze. The family of 3 had breakfast under the acacia tree in the yard. Wen Qi said loudly to Wen Qiao, who was washing his face by the well, what are you dawdling about? Come over quickly and have breakfast. Wen Qiao patted her face with water, brushed her hair randomly, walked to the dining table. Wen Mo put a deep-fried dough stick and a meat bun in her bowl, and poured her a bowl of soy milk. Wen Qiao touched Wen Mo's head, thank you, Xiao Mo. Su Yun had already eaten, went into the house to take the cloth bag, and said to the 3 siblings, clean up after eating, I'm going to work. As soon as her mother left the yard, she heard a man's reprimand, Su Yun, is this how you educate your children? I am so disappointed in you. Why are you so greedy? Wen Qi was the first to react, and rushed out like an arrow leaving the string. Wen Jianmin, how dare you scold my mother? It was only then that Wen Qiao realized that Wen Jianmin had come to cause trouble, so he put on his slippers and ran out. You are not a big or small thing. Wen Jianmin was so angry that he raised his hand and slapped Wen Qi. Thank you for your support, Today is also a day for recommendation votes, don't forget to vote for recommendations. Love. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 43. When Kai's emotions were instantly ignited, and she rushed forward and grabbed Wen Jianmin's collar, raising her hand to punch him in the face, Suyun was so frightened that she quickly grabbed him. Wen Qi, stop quickly, don't be impulsive. Wen Jianmin gritted his teeth and said, you're still like a lunatic. My son dared to beat me, right? Suyun, this is the good daughter and son you raised. Wen Qiao ran over, grabbed Wen Jianmin, and threw him against the wall. Then he turned around, stretched out his arms to hug Wen Qi, and patted him on the back. Xiao Qi, don't be impulsive, with my sister here, my sister is here, I won't let anyone bully you, calm down, calm down. Wen Qi was trembling all over, and his eyes were bloodshot. Wen Mo stood at the door, watching all this timidly. Wen Jianmin was the person who gave him the biggest psychological shadow, and he didn't even have the courage to come forward. Wen Qi grabbed Wen Qiao's hand, his veins popped, like a drowning man grabbing driftwood. He's also battling his own mania. His biological father gave up on him, and his eyes were full of despair, as if to say, sister, you can't give up on me too. Wen Qiao held her breath. You and Xiao Mo will always be my good brothers, and my sister will always protect you. Only then did Wen Qi slowly calm down. Behind him, Wen Jianmin's back was stabbed by Wen Qiao's violence against the wall, and he became even more furious when he thought of the girl sending a court summons to the company. Wen Qiao, how dare you treat me like this? You have no education at all. Wen Qiao whispered to Suyun, Mom, look a little late. Then he turned around and looked at Wen Jianmin with a cold face. For the people I like, I am not only educated, I am also very kind. If Mr. Wen thinks that I am not educated, it means that I hate you and hate you. Mr. Wen keeps saying that others, if you are uneducated, you will go to someone else's house and speak ill at each other, that is really uneducated. Wen Jianmin was dizzy. Suyun, you taught her? One bite at a time, Mr. Wen. Wen Qiao stood in front of her mother, pushed her hand away and pointed at her mother's hand. Why do you tell my mother what to do? Are you worthy? Don't you call me Mr. Wen? Is it possible to call your father? You also worthy? Have you fulfilled the responsibility of being a father for a day? Buying a limited package for your current wife is hundreds of thousands, buying a piano for your unrelated daughter is 200,000, and your biological son can't even pay for medical expenses. Come on, am I greedy? Buy Zhonghui 2 limited edition bags, wouldn't you have 2 million? Wasn't Wen Qi Wenmo born to you? You are so fussy about spending money for your son and daughter, your conscience, did you feed the dog? Neighbors were watching the fun with their heads poking around. Wen Jianmin was originally here today to crusade against this greedy family, but he didn't expect that this girl was so eloquent that he had no power to fight back. I lost all face. You. What about me? If Mr. Wen doesn't want to pay the money, be decent, and don't come here to scold the streets like street thugs. Didn't I give my business card when we went to court? Communicate with my lawyer, you are shameless, you have to face. Wen Jianmin was so angry that he lost all reason, and wanted to do something again. Wen Mo even ran over. No matter how scared he is, he still wants to protect his sister. Wen Qiao protected him, grabbed Wen Jianmin's wrist with one hand, gritted his teeth and said, you want to hit someone if you can't say it? Is this Mr. Wen's upbringing? Is it Mr. Wen's quality? Fortunately, the three of us did not follow Mr. Wen live together, or you'll become this angry bastard who only uses violence to solve problems. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 44. When Jianmin was so angry that he lost his voice, "Okay, very good, you girl, you have a sharp mouth. Because we don't have the protection of our biological father, we can only protect ourselves." Mr. Wen should reflect on himself. Who wants to be covered in thorns? Who wouldn't want to be a decent human being? But not everyone has that opportunity. You are amazing, you are amazing. Wen Qiao lifted his chin and said, "Give Mr. Wen a 1-week deadline. If Mr. Wen doesn't transfer the money to the account as I asked, the next court summons may be sent to the homes of several of your big clients, and yours big customers. Let's see what kind of person you really are." Wen Jianmin roared, "How dare you?" Wen Qiao smiled, her eyes were cold, "Then let you see if I dare." It was the indifferent and aggressive gaze of a little wolf cub, which made Wen Jianmin a little terrified. Wen Jianmin kicked on the wall and said, "Suyun, these 3 are all taken care of by you. It would be of no benefit to him if he came back disappointed and continued to make trouble." Wen Qiao pulled Wen Mo Wenqi back to the yard with her mother. Wen Qiao comforted Wen Mo in a low voice, "Are you okay?" Wen Mo nodded and pointed at Wen Qi. Wen Qiao asked Wen Qi again, "Is it better now?" Wen Kai's voice was panting, "It was as if someone had set fire to my head just now, and the blood all over my body was screaming. My actions are completely out of my control. I look terrible, don't I?" Wen Qiao patted his head, "It's not scary, it's not scary at all. You're just sick. It's similar to a cold and stomachache. It can be treated." Suyun sighed and said, Qiao, otherwise, forget it, it's too ugly." Wen Qiao's face darkened, and she looked at her mother with a feeling of resentment. "Now, you let me forget it?" "Mom, it's impossible, you heard it too, he never felt that it was him who raised us instead, he thinks we are greedy. For such a heartless person, do we need to be kind to him?" Suyun was at a loss. "I will find a way to make more money." Wen Qiao took a deep breath. "How about this, let's be fair and vote, the minority obeys the majority, Mom, okay?" Suyun had no choice but to agree. "Wen Qiao, whoever disagrees with asking Wen Jianmin for money, raise your hand." Only her mother raised her hand. Suyun looked at Wen Qi, and then at Wen Mo. The two looked away. "Wen Qiao, those who agree to ask Wen Jianmin for money, raise your hand." Wen Qiao and Wen Qi raised their hands at the same time, and Wen Mo slowly extended his hand. "Suyun, Xiao Mo, even you." Wen Qiao pressed her mother's shoulder, "You don't have to worry about this matter, just leave it to me." Suyun was afraid that her daughter's radical actions would attract their revenge. She could bear it if she was poorer, but she couldn't bear the threat to the safety of her children. Her way of dealing with people is to endure, to shrink in the turtle shell, not to offend others, not to provoke others. Even if others invade her turtle shell, she can shrink again and again. In her dictionary, there is only compromise, only humiliation. She has always lived like this. She has too many weaknesses, 3 children, she is worried that they will be hurt. Life is easy to break, she is too afraid that Qiao's staunch temper will suffer. It is her fault, she is weak and useless, there is no way to protect the 3 children properly. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 45. Munich. Wen Qiao really didn't want to go, she dawdled and didn't pack her clothes until the next afternoon. In the meeting room of Dongchuan Airlines at the airport, Fu Nanli, who had undergone the alcohol test, had already put on the captain's uniform. Su Shen gave him and Captain Cheng a copy of the meteorological cloud map, and Fu Nanli turned the pages slowly with his slender fingers. The chief purser, Zhao Yuan, was assessing several stewardesses, and He Qian glanced at the man sitting opposite from time to time. Fu Nanli's phone vibrated, and he whispered, "I'll make a call." Captain Cheng said politely, "Hey, we're almost done here." Fu Nanli picked up the phone and walked to the French window, dialed a number and went out. Wen Qiao was lying on a recliner in the yard, eating watermelon and visiting Station B. She wanted to open an account and become the upmaster of the music section. With her strength, it would not be a big problem to be the leader of the music section. The phone vibrated suddenly, and seeing the caller ID on it, Wen Qiao immediately sat upright. "Hello. Is your luggage packed?" Wen Qiao looked at the watermelon in his hand. "Pack, it's packed. The car that picked you up has parked at the entrance of your alley. Now that you've cleaned it up, let's go out." Wen Qiao. Wen Qiao ran to the door and poked her head out to have a look. There was indeed a shiny luxury car parked at the alley. Did this Fu Nanli guess that she would make excuses not to go? People were blocking the door, she really couldn't escape, so she could only say, "Okay, I'll go out right away." "Forget it, let's treat this trip as his bodyguard." Wen Qiao quickly rolled up a few clothes from the closet and stuffed them into the suitcase. While trotting outside, she sent a voice message to Lu Yuyu, "Fu Nanli and I are going to Germany, and I will tell my mother that I will go to the summer camp with you, don't let it go." Lu Yuyu's voice came quickly, "My Joe, why do you always use the excuse of summer camp? You can't cheat me again this time, or my mother will be worried to death." Don't worry, lie to Fu Xiao, I feel a little trembling in my heart, I am very good at lying to your mother." Sitting in the car, the heat was instantly swallowed up by the cold air. Wen Qiao reached out and touched the cold metal. Looking down, it looked like a telescope. His phone rang again. "After arriving at the airport, you stand at gate 85, in front of the whole floor-to-ceiling windows, and look through the binoculars. The aircraft number is D1005. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I will do a round-the-board inspection." Wen Qiao, "Okay." The tone is a bit reluctant, "Don't you want to see me working?" Wen Qiao, "Why? I'm very interested in how you work. You must be very professional and handsome. I can't wait to see it." Fu Nanli said again, "It was 8 o'clock in the evening local time when I arrived in Germany. Your seat is by the window. When you arrive in Germany, you can look out of the window. Because of the different living habits in the past, East Germans are used to yellowish lights, while West Germans are used to yellowish lights. White lights, you can tell East Berlin from West Berlin by the color of the lights." He had a deep voice, and he was very serious about taking her to enjoy the beautiful scenery along the way. Wen Qiao also put away the joke, and said solemnly, "Okay, I will remember to read it when the time comes. When you arrive in the territory, there will be a reminder on the broadcast." Several flight attendants whispered, "Who is Captain Fu talking to? The voice is so gentle. It should be his girlfriend. I saw it the other day and felt that the captain doted on that girl. I'm so envious." He Qian tightly squeezed the notebook in her hand, and glanced at the tall man's back in front of the French window, unwilling and wronged. Did Fu Nanli lose his mind in a car accident, so why did he fall in love with that kind of girl? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 46. Fu Nanli hung up the phone and returned to the conference table. Captain Cheng clasped his hands together, "The meeting is over, let's board the plane and do the daily crew inspection." Everyone packed their suitcases in an orderly manner, walked through the staff aisle, and boarded the plane. Wen Qiao picked up the ticket, checked in her luggage according to the normal procedure, and entered the VIP lounge. Fu Nanli booked her a business class ticket. The bodyguards accompanied her all the way, as if she was afraid that she would escape midway. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Wen Qiao ran to a whole floor-to-ceiling window, pulled out the binoculars, looked ahead, and found Dongchuan Airlines aircraft numbered D-1005. Under the lens, he saw a man with tall legs and long legs. Wear the captain's uniform and walk down the gangway. Seemingly looking in her direction, Wen Qiao waved at him. But he also knew that he would not be able to see it so far away. When Fu Nanli was working, he didn't have the temperament of a rich second-generation dude. He was very serious and professional, and he would not abuse his power to seek benefits for his girlfriend. If you want to see him, you can only look at him with a monocular at a distance of 400 meters. Wen Qiao felt that such a rich second generation without a trace of bad habits was extremely rare. Brilliant and lonely. After the strict cross-check was over, there was a boarding reminder on the radio. The bodyguards drove her to the boarding gate and watched her get on the shuttle bus before leaving. Wen Qiao. Are you that worried about her? Because she arrived in a hurry, she was wearing a t-shirt and a pleated short skirt, with her long legs exposed. When she got into the plane, the cold air made her shiver. After she found a seat and sat down, she looked around. The stewardess's meal room was behind her, and the cockpit was not far ahead. Fu Nanli must be very handsome sitting in the cockpit wearing the captain's uniform at this moment. Wen Qiao was covered in goosebumps from the cold, and politely called to a flight attendant who passed by her, "Hello, can I have a blanket?" When He Qian saw Wen Qiao, her heart skipped a beat and her mind went blank. Fu Nanli returned to work the day before, and she was on the same flight, so did Fu Nanli let her come? The well-trained expression on He Qian's face collapsed at that moment. "Can you get me a blanket?" Wen Qiao asked again. Only then did He Qian regain her usual expression, showing a standard smile. "I'm sorry for this passenger, the blankets have been distributed and there is no stock at present." Wen Qiao rubbed her arms. "Ah. Is it gone?" "Yes, sorry." Wen Qiao was slightly taken aback. The first-class passengers didn't even have a blanket. Fu Nanli was a bit wronged by spending the expensive air ticket. Will she freeze to death after a 10-hour flight? This stewardess seemed to have visited Fu Nanli in the ward before. Could it be arrival in love? Difficulty from arrival in love? "Captain Fu, you have too many suitors, it's really a loss every step of the way." Zhao Yuan heard the movement, came over, and was a little surprised when she saw Wen Qiao. She smiled and said, "Is there anything I need?" "I want a blanket. The air conditioner on your plane is too strong." "I am a little cold," but she said there is no more. Wen Qiao said it aggrievedly. Zhao Yuan smiled, "Wait a minute, I'll tune one for you." Pulling He Qian into the dining room, the smile stopped for a moment. "There are still blankets, why did you tell the passengers that there are no?" He Qian's eyes were slightly red. "I don't like her." Zhao Yuan gritted her teeth angrily. "She is a passenger first, a distinguished guest of our Dongchuan Airlines, and secondly the captain's girlfriend. As a flight attendant of Dongchuan Airlines, how can you deceive your own customers?" Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 47. He Qian lowered her eyes, full of grievances. "Dear guest? This business class ticket must have been bought by Captain Fu. It's so expensive, how can a little girl be willing to buy it?" Zhao Yuan was speechless. "You know that the captain bought it, why do you have to embarrass her? Are you afraid that the captain will find out and order you to be kicked out of Group A?" He Qian choked up. "I just can't give her a good face, Sister Yuan, I can't control it." Zhao Yuan patted her on the back. "Okay, I don't need your service, I'll take care of the whole process." Zhao Yuan took out a blanket and returned to Wen Qiao, bowing halfway. "Hi passenger, I got a blanket from another place, and we sincerely apologize for the trouble I caused you. Wen Qiao quickly said, it's okay, thank you. The girl is beautiful and has a good personality. She seems to understand why the captain likes this girl. If you need anything else, please ring the bell. It's an honor to serve you. Wen Qiao was flattered by the service, and nodded, thank you. In the cockpit, Captain Chen and his co-pilot, as well as Fu Nanli and his co-pilot Su Shen were there, a total of 4 captains. Captain Chen said, Captain Fu, you dictate, I will operate, and Xiaogu will take pictures of the whole process. This is an assessment of Fu Nanli's return to work. Fu Nanli's eyes were heavy. Engine fire test. MCDO test. The control tower applied to launch the drive. When Fu Nanli said something, Captain Cheng followed suit and nodded slightly. 15 minutes later, the plane took off. In the evening, the plane was heading west, facing the dazzling light. Fu Nanli picked up the sunglasses beside him and put them on. Even though he has watched it countless times, Su Shen still sighs with emotion, their captain is so handsome that everyone is angry. The voice of the captain came from the radio, and Wen Qiao felt a little regretful, because Fu Nanli was not the captain of this flight, so he was not able to hear his speech on the radio. At 5 o'clock, the evening sun was shining brightly. Wen Qiao leaned on the porthole, watching the golden clouds billowing 10 miles outside, thinking that he and Fu Nanli were looking at the same scene, and his mood was a little delicate. After flying for 10 hours, it arrived in Germany at 8 o'clock in the evening. Wen Qiao was drowsy, and finally heard the reminder on the radio. This time it was Fu Nanli's voice. The voice transmitted through the microphone current is more deep and sexy. Passengers, the plane has already arrived in Germany, and there is still half an hour before the plane lands. Immediately afterwards, the same voice reported again in both English and German. Wen Qiao couldn't control her ears were slightly warm. Nice. Sexy. It is especially sexy when speaking German, as if whispering softly against her ear, and the foreigner behind her is wow in admiration. She peered through the porthole, took out her camera, and took a few pictures. Sure enough, the lights in East Berlin and West Berlin are very different, half of them are warm lights and half of them are white lights. Sitting on the side is a German, and she also popularized the matter of yellow and white lights with her in relatively blunt English. Wen Qiao smiled, yes, I know, my boyfriend told me. Whoa, your boyfriend knows this. He's German. No, he is the captain, and he is the co-pilot of this flight. There was imperceptible pride in his tone. Wow. He Qian served the passengers on the other side of the aisle, naturally heard clearly, shook her hands, and accidentally spilled the water in the paper cup. Zhao Yuan rushed over to apologize to the passengers. The passenger was a woman in her 40s or 50s. While wiping the water spilled on her skirt, she gave He Qian a dissatisfied look and said to Zhao Yuan, why are your first-class flight attendants so poor? Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 48. He Qian could only say sorry in a low voice. She is a dignified and famous lady, and here she apologizes to an ordinary nouveau riche who can only bow her knees when she sees her in her life. She did all this for Fu Nanli. Is it useful to be sorry? I bought the first class at an expensive price just to be splashed by you. I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm really sorry. In this way, Dongchuan Airlines will reimburse you for your air ticket to make up for your loss. Is this okay? With benefits, the woman gave up. Wen Qiao wrapped the blanket tightly around her body, and ate a melon in silence. He Qian looked over with resentment in her eyes, and her eyes were still a little red, but the resentment quickly subsided. Wen Qiao. It is you who did not serve the passengers well. And it was the passenger who made things difficult for you. Why do you look like accusing me? It is simply a crime of wanting to add, there is no reason to worry about it. Zhao Yuan pulled He Qian into the dining room with a gloomy expression on her face. You have made a lot of mistakes and omissions today. I have no way to protect you. You must deduct your performance, otherwise the captain will find out and the punishment will be more serious. He Qian burst into tears. Almost every time I fly, I will experience all kinds of difficulties. I suffer this kind of grievance here, all because of him, but he. Zhao Yuan sighed. He Qian, let me tell you something you don't like to hear. What you did was completely wishful thinking. The captain never asked you to do this, and he didn't even care about what you did. He Qian covered her mouth and almost cried out. Zhao Yuan knew that what she said was too merciless, and comforted her. Okay, don't cry, I told you, there are so many people who pursue you, and there are many tall, rich and handsome. Why do you just fall in love with me? What about an indifferent machine that never takes you seriously? He Qian, if you want to marry, marry the best one, and Fu Nanli is the best. She has seen the best, and she can't do it if she is asked to settle for second best and choose someone else. Seeing that she didn't eat oil and salt, Zhao Yuan decided to stop talking. Half an hour later, the plane landed at Munich International Airport, and the passengers dispersed. Wen Qiao followed Fu Nanli's instructions and waited for him in his seat. 10 minutes later, the staff of the Ground Service Bureau entered the cockpit for a routine inspection, and the staff left. 2 minutes later, Wen Qiao saw Fu Nanli walk out of the cockpit. He was wearing a captain's uniform, with 2 bright yellow armbands on his cuffs, epaulets of the same color on his shoulders, and a captain's cap on his head. He was handsome with a unique uniform allure. He walked towards her along the narrow aisle, like a male model in uniform, with aggression and control in his eyes. He locked her tightly, and with every step he took, Wen Qiao's heart beat faster. Wen Qiao got up, walked towards him, and wrapped his arms around his waist. Mr. Captain, you have worked hard. The man looked a little surprised, as if he didn't expect her to be so enthusiastic and active. Not far behind the aisle, He Qian looked at the two with mixed emotions in her heart. Zhao Yuan pulled her. Let's go down quickly. He Qian turned her head reluctantly. Of course Wen Qiao did it for He Qian to see. Naturally, she doesn't have to show mercy to her rival in love who doesn't give her a blanket. Fu Nanli looked at the girl's delicate dimple and smile. His eyes seemed to be soaked in water vapor. The peach blossom eyes were slightly raised at the end, revealing a casual charm. His pupils were beautiful amber, and a small bracelet was around his waist. She didn't seem to know that this was an extremely dangerous position. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 49. Due to the presence of someone, he restrained his emotions, put his arm around her waist, and touched her head with the other. The company minibus is waiting for us in the parking lot, let's go. He Qian and He Qian got off the gangway. He Qian looked back at them, and Wen Qiao leaned in Fu Nanli's arms obediently like a demon concubine who brought disaster to the country and the people, and looked at her with a smile. Misfortune itself. He Qian felt as if a thorn had grown in her heart. Her throat was sore from anger. She held onto the handrail of the gangway without looking back. Be careful where you step. Captain Fuda, the indifferent robot in the eyes of the whole crew, reminded his little girlfriend to watch her feet gently and considerately. Captain, your aloof avatar has collapsed. Wen Qiao's voice was all sorts of cute. The delicate and gentle girl character design must be stable, and it must be deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Su Shen at the front whispered to Zhao Yuan, Sister Yuan, I really didn't expect that the captain, who is disrespected by his relatives, would have such a painting style when talking about love. Seeing that He Jian's face was as white as paper, Zhao Yuan glared at Su Shen, "Don't talk about the captain's right and wrong." After getting on the ferry, Fu Nanli pulled Wen Qiao to sit down. She was wearing a pleated skirt, showing her long straight and slender legs. Fu Nanli's Adam's apple rolled heavily. He stretched out his hand to unbutton it, took off his uniform, covered her legs, raised his head, and glanced at the empty ferry. Everyone immediately pretended to look at the scenery, and chatted together. "Captain, we really didn't pay too much attention to you and your little girlfriend." The shuttle bus was changed to a minibus, and Wen Qiao was wearing Fu Nanli's uniform, looking curiously at the scenery outside the window. "What river is that?" "The Isar River at the northern foot of the Alps." "What about that?" "Munich Cathedral." There is imperceptible pampering and excellent patience in the light tone. For others, Fu Nanli did not have such patience. She seemed to be extremely attached to him, her chin rested on his shoulder, and she said lazily, "Look at it, the night scene is so beautiful." He Jian tightly held the hand holding the hem of the skirt, and the two people were right opposite her. They looked down and saw each other. The little girl is not very old, but she has a set of tricks to seduce people. His body was extremely soft, as if he had no bones, and he stuck to Fu Nanli's body the whole time. He Jian has always disdained to curse people with unbearable words. But this Wen Qiao is really a real little vixen. At the entrance of the Pullman Hotel, gilded lights dimly enveloped the exterior wall of the hotel, exuding a sense of low-key luxury. The hotel doorman in security uniform and white gloves came forward to open the door. Everyone got out of the car and stood outside waiting for them. Fu Nanli got out of the car and reached out to help Wen Qiao, but Wen Qiao jumped off. "Your little cutie suddenly appeared," felt Fu Nanli's heart skip a beat, and he put his arms around her waist. "Be careful." The two stewardesses in the back exchanged wild eye contact, and whispered, "It's so cute." He Jian's grievance and resentment had already burned to the top of her head, so she walked to the hotel without waiting for them. This is the hotel where they stay every time they fly, and there are fixed reserved rooms. After getting out of the elevator, Fu Nanli walked on the soft carpet with Wen Qiao in his arms, and stopped at the end of the corridor. Only then did Wen Qiao remember and ask, "Shall we live in a room?" Fu Nanli stretched out his hand to swipe his card, and rested his slender fingers on the golden doorknob. If he couldn't open it, he looked down at her. "We are lovers, what's the problem with sharing one room? Standard room or double bedroom? King bedroom?" There was only one bed in the big bedroom. Wen Qiao panicked. "Huh? No. Not too good. We. Didn't you stick to me all the way?" Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 50. Wen Qiao. Isn't that all for He Jian to see? As expected, one should not be too fussy, and she will be punished immediately. I'm not familiar with the place, that's why I'm a little sticky. Before she finished speaking, she was forcibly pulled into the room by the man, and Wen Qiao's cry was a bit shrill. "I found it when I entered the entrance." She was played. It's a big suite with a living room and 2 bedrooms, not a room with just one bed at all. She glanced at Fu Nanli mournfully. Fu Nanli took off the captain's cap from his head and put it on the glazed table in the entrance. He reached out to unbutton his shirt with an imperceptible smile on his lips. Wen Qiao was angry, lied to others, what kind of bad taste? She was about to have a good talk with the man, when Fu Nanli took out his cell phone and started talking on the phone, moved the receiver a little and said to her, "I have something to deal with, you should take a rest first." She was sitting on the sofa, and the man was standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. Speaking English the whole time, Wen Qiao vaguely heard words like rugby, team, and the like. Their room was on the 32nd floor, with the night view of Munich outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. The lights were projected on the windows, and the man's captain's uniform further accentuated his figure with wide shoulders, narrow waist and long legs. After talking on the phone for half an hour, he came over with a normal tone, "I bought a team." Wen Xiao was drinking water. "What team?" "The rugby team, named after you, will be called Xiao from now on." Wen Xiao's pupils trembled. "How much, how much?" 3.2 billion. Wen Xiao's hands trembled. Dollars. Wen Xiao's hands were shaking so much that he couldn't stop. This tone is exactly the same as when she went to the supermarket to buy a big watermelon worth 32 yuan. "What can I do?" "Use my name to name a team, or..." The doorbell rang, and the delivery man came, but Wen Xiao couldn't continue. The better Fu Nanli treats her, the more guilty she feels. I remembered what Uncle Li said again. Everyone is counting on him. Everyone wants to replace it. There are dangers around him. He is like a loner, standing in the center of the vortex of money and power, and she, who is closest to him, is talking about hype and deceiving him. My heart ached. The Wen family and Wen Jianmin have been on fire for 2 days, so Zhong Hui naturally took this opportunity to add insult to injury. Wen Jianmin pressed his temple, angry and helpless. "Tomorrow I will ask the accountant to remit the money to her." The hearts of Zhong Hui and Su Lu sank together. With so many of them, they couldn't deal with one Wen Xiao. This battle was completely lost. Zhong Hui said unwillingly, "Jianmin, you really want to give money, so why don't you just let that girl get what she wants? And what if she tastes the sweetness in the future, pushes her nose in the face, makes more progress, and continues to ask you for money?" Wen Jianmin gritted his teeth and said, "That girl is very crazy. If she really sends the court summons to my client, my business will be greatly affected. I can't let her go on. Then you also have to ask her to sign a document, and then the two will be settled. Otherwise, if she becomes addicted to knocking, who can stand her like this?" Wen Jianmin was furious. "Of course, that bunch of lunatics in the future has nothing to do with me at all." Su Lu flashed a smile. 2 million buyouts, that's pretty good. Wen Xiao's relationship with the upper class was completely broken. With her 2 million in her pocket, she can live a peaceful life in the poor world, and never bother them again.